The Billionaire Who Cancelled Christmas Part 3. Chapter 5, The Unwanted Guest Who Won't Leave. The storm did not mellow with time. If anything, by mid-afternoon it doubled down on its ambition, smothering the mountain in thick white blankets and pounding the windows so hard the glass seemed to vibrate with every gust. From inside the resort, the world looked erased, sky and ground and horizon all merging into one massive, stubborn wall of snow. Which, under normal circumstances, might have been soothing. But these were not normal circumstances. Because Harper Meadows, amiable, chatty, optimistic photographer, was still in the building. And Grayson Hale, meticulous, controlled, anti-holiday mogul, was behaving like the universe had committed a personal offense by letting her exist on his mountain. By early afternoon, the staff had made it an Olympic sport to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Harper, for her part, tried to be polite about her unintentional residency. She wandered the hallways with the polite energy of someone visiting an elderly relative's house, cautious, apologetic, touching nothing unless strictly necessary. She didn't want to push boundaries. She didn't want to make noise. She didn't want to cause trouble. And absolutely no matter what, she did not want to run into Grayson Hale again until her embarrassment level had dropped to a manageable temperature. But the lodge was big and quiet and echoey. Every sound carried. Every step felt amplified. And Grayson sulked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just efficiently. A masterclass in silent, simmering irritation. It started mid-morning. Harper had taken her coffee to the East Lounge, thinking the huge windows overlooking the slopes might be a peaceful spot to sit and review her photos. She barely had her laptop open before Grayson walked by the doorway, paused, looked at her like she was a smudge on an otherwise perfect painting, and turned away without a word. Later, she tried sitting near the grand piano in the atrium. She'd barely touched a key, a soft little plink, before Grayson materialized 2 rooms away, giving her a look that wordlessly asked whether she planned to host a full holiday concert. She shut the piano lid very quietly. Then there was the elevator incident. Harper pressed the button. Grayson appeared out of nowhere like he was summoned by the sound. They both stared at the elevator doors. She took a hesitant step forward. "I'll take the next one," he said, stepping back like standing in an elevator with her would violate international treaties. She tried for humor. "I don't bite." A deadpan, "I'm aware." Then he disappeared into the stairwell. Okay, she thought, that hurt more than it should have. By lunchtime, the staff had caught on to the pattern. Wherever Harper wandered, Grayson arrived within minutes, not to speak to her, heavens no, but to silently monitor her presence like she was a live grenade that had been diplomatically placed in his living room. Not angry. Not volatile. Just deeply, profoundly inconvenienced. Almost offended by the mere fact of her existence. By late afternoon, Harper had opted for the library, the one place in the entire resort that seemed safe from the gravitational pull of Grayson Hale's brooding orbit. She curled up in a leather chair by the window, trying not to feel like a trespasser. Outside, snow swirled in hypnotic spirals. Inside, the fire crackled softly. Shelves arched high above her, lined with hardcovers whose spines were so pristine it looked like no one had ever dared touch them. She pulled her knees up and hugged her mug of tea, exhaling. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "He's just having a mood. Like a long, extended, billionaire-level mood. Totally manageable. Totally ignorable. You're fine." A soft voice interrupted her pep talk. "You've met Mr. Hale during December. It was the barista from that morning, standing a few feet away with a tray of pastries she clearly didn't want to put down until she confirmed he wasn't lurking behind a bookshelf. "Oh," Harper said. "So this is normal." The barista gave a sympathetic wince. "Pretty much, yes. He gets like this every year during the holiday closure. We call it the frost period." Harper raised an eyebrow. "That sounds medically concerning." "We mean it emotionally." Harper groaned. "Perfect." The barista leaned in. "It's not you, though." "Are you sure?" Harper whispered. "Because he's acting like he caught me eating the wallpaper." "It's definitely not you," she reassured. "He just doesn't like change. Or surprises. Or, well, people during December." "Great," Harper muttered. "And I'm all three." The barista nodded gravely. "Yes. You are." After she left, Harper stared into her tea, watching the steam curl up like tiny smoke signals of defeat. She'd been in awkward social situations before: rude clients, diva influencers, editors who thought camera gear ran on fairy dust, but nothing compared to the chilly tension of being the involuntary holiday houseguest of a man whose personality resembled a high-end freezer with trust issues. "He doesn't want me here." It wasn't a question. It wasn't insecurity. It was fact. And the storm. Absolutely not helping. She glanced out the window again. Snow was piled high against the glass, half burying the lower frame. The sky was a solid white slab, visibility somewhere between minimal and "you're living inside a snow globe now, deal with it." She couldn't go anywhere. She couldn't leave even if she packed up, wrote a thank you note/apology, and attempted to hike down the mountain in 12 layers of knit sweaters and regret. She was stuck. And Grayson Hale was stuck with her. Grayson stalked through the upper hallway with the focused irritation of a man assembling a mental filing cabinet labeled "problems caused by one unexpected photographer." He was not angry. He didn't do anger. It was inefficient. He simply preferred predictability, a preference that had been spectacularly destroyed the moment he found a sleeping stranger in his lobby. He stopped by his office window, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the raging storm. It wasn't the blizzard that bothered him. It was the disruption. The way she moved through the building, warm, observant, curious, leaving echoes of life where everything was designed to stay still during this holiday-free period. The way she asked questions. The way she joked. The way she had called him CEO of Holiday Shutdown. A muscle in his jaw ticked. Not because it offended him. Because it was annoyingly accurate. And because he'd almost smiled. He needed distance. From her. From this absolute mess of a booking error. From the faint, unwelcome awareness that her presence had stirred things he had spent years locking behind iron doors. Harper set her mug down and stood, restless. She couldn't hide here forever. She needed air, actual air, not book-scented air, so she wandered out through the main lobby again, hugging her sweater close. The lobby was quiet. The fire was a glowing ember bed now, dim and warm. And on the second-level balcony, pacing with the tension of a man negotiating a hostile takeover, was Grayson. He hadn't seen her. Yet. She took a step backward. The floor creaked. He turned. Their eyes met. Instant tension. Instant discomfort. Instant "please let the floor swallow me." He descended the stairs with controlled precision, every step sharp, silent, and, honestly, a little bone-chilling. When he reached the bottom, he stopped a respectable distance away, though his posture suggested he'd prefer the distance were a mile. "Miss Meadows." "Hi," Harper said, trying for friendly, landing somewhere near frazzled. "How's the storm?" "Intensifying." "Oh. Great. But that isn't the issue at hand." The words dropped like cold marbles. Harper winced inside. "Ah. Okay. What is the issue?" He took a breath, clearly weighing his words. "You're stuck here." "Yes," Harper said, voice light. "I noticed. And because you're stuck here," he continued, "the resort must adjust." "Oh," she said. "Okay. Adjust how?" He clasped his hands behind his back, a position that apparently meant business. "By establishing boundaries." "Ah. There it was. The long-awaited "you're in my space and I don't like it" speech. Harper braced herself. He continued, tone polite but firmer than before. "You may move freely through the common areas, but please refrain from entering restricted wings. Photography is suspended until further notice. And I ask that you respect my personal workspaces. This is not a typical stay." She nodded slowly. "Got it. Respect boundaries. No wandering. No capturing the magic of snowflakes." "Understood." He didn't react to the joke. Not even blink. "Good," he said. She shifted, rubbing her arm. "Look, I really am sorry. I didn't know this place was closed. If I had, I wouldn't have." He cut her off gently, but with finality. "What's done is done." He wasn't cruel. But he wasn't forgiving either. He was tired. He was guarded. He was hosting someone he absolutely did not intend to. And it showed. Harper swallowed hard. "Right," she murmured. "Okay. Well. I'll stay out of your way." He nodded once. A curt, crisp punctuation mark on the conversation. "Appreciated." Then he turned and walked away, not storming off, not disappearing angrily. Just radiating the energy of a man personally offended by fate. Harper watched him go, her stomach knotting in that uncomfortable mix of guilt and stubbornness. She hadn't asked for this. She hadn't engineered this. And yet somehow she had become the living embodiment of everything he wanted to avoid during December. Upstairs, a door shut firmly. Not slammed. Just firmly. The kind of shut that said the person behind it needed space to reorganize their emotional spreadsheets. Harper sighed into the empty lobby. "Perfect," she whispered. "I'm snowed in with a billionaire who sulks like the universe owes him an apology." She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. The storm wailed outside. And inside the lodge, two people settled into their roles. Harper, the guest who couldn't leave. Grayson, the man deeply convinced she shouldn't have been here in the first place. Neither had any idea how much they were about to upend each other's perfectly built walls. But for now, they were trapped. Together. And absolutely not thrilled about it. Chapter 6, A Truce Over Hot Chocolate. By early evening, the tension inside the Hale Summit Resort had settled into a low, steady hum, a background vibration, much like the storm outside, constant and insistent. Harper felt it with every step she took. Not tension from the building, no, the lodge itself was gorgeous and warm and almost aggressively peaceful. It was him. Grayson Hale. The man radiated quiet intensity like it was central heating. Every time she passed within 20 feet of him, she could practically hear the internal spreadsheet in his head recalculating how much he wished the universe had blocked her reservation like it was supposed to. So by the time dinner hour rolled around, Harper was firmly committed to not interacting with him again today. She'd already given the man a nickname that he overheard, which, to her, counted as 2 mistakes, the saying of it, and the saying of it where a billionaire could hear. A normal person might have gone to her room, ordered room service, and stayed out of sight. But Harper wasn't built for isolation, or silence, or avoiding warm light and cozy corners. So she found herself drifting toward the resort's spacious lounge again, drawn by the soft firelight and the promise of something comforting. The staff had placed complimentary soup and pastries on a sideboard, likely hoping guests, Reed, the one guest, wouldn't starve while the storm erased the world outside. Harper grabbed a bowl, sat near the fire, and stared into the orange flames with a sigh. "This is fine," she murmured. "I'm fine. Everything is fine. I'm coexisting peacefully with an iceberg in human form." The fire popped once, immediately disproving her calm. She shook her head, trying to release the tension in her shoulders. "You're stuck here," she reminded herself. "Might as well make it pleasant." So she went looking for something sweet. The kitchen pantry had caught her attention earlier, specifically the shelf labeled "Ingredients do not touch without authorization," which, in Harper's mind, was essentially a polite challenge. So she slipped inside the kitchen now, boots silent against the tile, scanning the shelves until she found what she was craving. Hot chocolate mix, cinnamon sticks, dark chocolate bars, vanilla paste, whipped cream, and, jackpot, tiny marshmallows. She grinned. Her grandmother used to make hot chocolate like a ceremony, she'd said. Rich, dramatic, over the top. As if the cocoa needed flair to reach its full personality. "Well," Harper whispered as she began gathering items, "I think tonight calls for ceremony." She filled a small pot with milk, added a whisper of heavy cream, dropped in half a bar of dark chocolate, and stirred gently until the mixture turned velvety. Then she added cinnamon, a little nutmeg, a dash of vanilla, and finally, the magic ingredient, an unapologetically large handful of marshmallows. As the mixture began to bubble softly, the kitchen filled with the scent of sweetness and warmth, the kind of smell that wrapped around you and said, "Here. Forget the cold." She poured the steaming hot chocolate into an oversized mug and topped it with whipped cream that looked like it had dreams of reaching the afterlife. She was sliding the mug toward herself for a triumphant sip when a voice behind her cut through the kitchen. "I'm afraid that's not standard use of the kitchen facilities." Harper jumped so violently she splattered whipped cream onto her sweater. She spun around. Grayson Hale stood in the doorway. Of course he did. He had changed into a dark sweater, not a suit, not a coat, just a simple, soft-looking sweater, and somehow that made everything more disorienting. He looked human. Warm. Murderously handsome in a quiet, unfair way. But his expression. That was the same as before. Cold. Controlled. A little annoyed that the universe had allowed her to breathe the same oxygen as him. Harper stammered, gesturing at the mug like it was evidence. "This isn't what it looks like." "It looks," he said evenly, "like an authorized culinary activity." Harper blinked. "Okay, you make it sound like I committed a federal offense." "I'm making hot chocolate, not smuggling gourmet contraband." "It's a commercial kitchen," he replied. We have procedures. I followed procedures, she insisted. Well, my grandmother's. He didn't blink. Not helpful. She held up her hands. Look, I just thought, it's cold, and the storm is stressful, and I figured something warm might help and so you broke into my kitchen, he concluded. I did not break in, she protested. The door wasn't locked. That is not the defense you think it is. Harper clutched her mug protectively. I'm not giving it back. From the corner of her eye, she saw his mouth twitch. Barely. Somewhere between irritation and disbelief and something remarkably close to humor, the kind of humor someone tries to hide so their reputation doesn't crumble. His gaze moved to the mug. It's large. It's dramatic, Harper corrected. There's a difference. His eyebrows lifted slightly. And marshmallows. They're essential. A long beat passed. Then, in a moment Harper would have sworn she hallucinated, Grayson Hale exhaled quietly through his nose and said, You made enough for two. Her heart did a weird skip. Was he? She blinked. Wait, do you want some? He didn't answer immediately. He looked almost conflicted. Then he stepped forward. Not too close. Just 2 feet closer, enough to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, the universe had forced them into the same building and resisting every molecule of warmth wasn't sustainable. If only, he said, to ensure you haven't set the kitchen on fire with your creativity. Oh please, Harper muttered, turning back to the stove. It was only a very small flame. A flame, he repeated. That stayed inside the pot. I see. No structural damage. Good to know. And technically, she added, I improved the hot chocolate. He crossed his arms, a stance that made his shoulders look far too broad to be legal. Hot chocolate does not require improvement. Yours doesn't, she said. This is better. He looked offended. At the concept of improved cocoa. She poured a second mug, slid it across the counter toward him, and held her breath. If Grayson Hale refused this, she would not be surprised. If he accepted it, she might faint. He stared at the mug. Stared at her. Then, carefully, as if testing the structural integrity of peace itself, he lifted it. He did not smile. He did not thaw. But he accepted it. Harper held her own mug close, watching him. He lifted the cup slightly toward her, not quite a toast. More like an acknowledgement. A truce. She returned the gesture. He took a sip. Paused. Blink. Looked down into the mug like he'd been tricked. Harper leaned in. You don't hate it. That, he said slowly, is not the term I would use. You like it. He inhaled sharply. I didn't say that. You don't not like it. His jaw clenched. That phrase means nothing. It means you like it. Miss Meadows. You like my hot chocolate. Silence. Pure, stubborn silence. Then he took another sip. If acceptance of joy had a measurement scale, it would look exactly like that second sip. Harper couldn't help a triumphant grin. He did not return it, but he also didn't leave. For the first time since she arrived, they were standing in the same space without static radiating off him like he was allergic to her presence. The storm howled. The kitchen glowed. And the air between them shifted, tiny, subtle, barely noticeable unless you listened carefully. A fracture in ice. A softening. a truce born of sugar and heat and the undeniable fact that even a man who banned holiday cheer couldn't fight a good cup of hot chocolate forever. They stood there a moment longer, drinking in silence, but not the cold kind. The kind that felt like the fragile beginning of something human. Something reluctant. But something real.
Thanks for listening to Billionaire Romance Stories, where love meets luxury in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing your favorite twists and favorite theories. And don't forget to ring that bell, because in this world of yachts, secrets, and luxurious romance, the next story is always one click away.